Welcome to a Harsh Reality broadcast on the 15th of September 2014. The title of this presentation is called Which Snowflake Will Set Off the Economic Avalanche? And if we have a look at the bottom of the screen, it says every snowflake in an avalanche pleads not guilty. We have a system in the UK of the Conservative Party and the Labour Party. Those are the two main parties in the UK. The Labour Party will blame the Conservatives for the economic woes, and the Conservatives will blame the Labour Party. The Labour Party says we must spend more money to get into a recovery, and the Conservatives say that we must apply austerity to have a sustainable future. I tend to believe that the Conservative way is the proper way. That's just my own opinion. We can't keep spending other people's money. We need to take responsibility. Now, even the Conservatives aren't really applying austerity, because if they did, they would try and balance the budget. Year on year, we still have a deficit. In other words, the debt is still increasing. Real austerity will happen when they try to balance the books or even apply a surplus. The reality is our standard of living is far too high in Western economies. And that's just the truth of the matter. Why? Very simple answer: debt. Far too much of too much debt. And it's giving us a fairy tale existence. We are only having this relatively comfortable lifestyle because we are not facing reality. We are borrowing from the future. There's been ingenious ways to over leverage. The truth is, a boom based on excess credit will always burst. In the past, there has been boom and busts, but they've been manageable. It has happened in the past and it will happen in the future, boom and busts. However, today is very different. Governments have found ingenious ways to over leverage. The burst is going to be catastrophic. They've kept this fairy tale alive with quantitative easing, low interest rates, abandonment of the debt ceiling. We have borrowed too much from the future. Now, I really do wish that the general public would have the attention span to watch documentaries on third world countries. It would give a balanced perspective on life. I believe with globalization, standards of living throughout the world will steadily even out. That means, though, our standard of living has to fall. I cannot put it any other way. That is the reality. That's why the transitional period will be so painful. Once we adjust to a lower standard of living, that won't be too bad for us, but this transitional period is going to be extremely painful. I truly believe our standard of living is going to nosedive. That will mean that people in other countries will have a little bit of a better standard of living. This is what globalization does. We are very protective. We don't like immigration because they come and they actually force down our wages. But if you think about it, why do you think we did have quite a good standard of living? It was due to the fact that people in Asia were on subsistent wages. Well, that's changing, but that means our standard of living has to fall. Now, this makes me laugh. There's a caption here: "Move back home, kids today are so lazy and irresponsible. Your mother and I started out with nothing." And this poor guy carrying this bag says, "Trust me, I would have loved starting out with nothing." Kids today really are in major debt, and we are placing further burdens on them. House approves higher debt limit without condition. Now, people that follow my blog realise that I've been going on about the debt ceiling And I've actually said that the US have actually abandoned the debt ceiling. Usually when they talk about it, when it comes up, the debt ceiling, they'll put a limit what they're going to work to. Well, they've not even put an upper limit. I believe it's going to be revised again in 2015, but I suspect they will still kick the can down the road. Nobody wants to face reality. Here we go, even in Europe. Draghi's case for quantitative easing in Europe. Even in Europe, we're going to go towards a form of quantitative easing, and they're actually going to cut the interest rate, and on deposit accounts there's actually going to be a negative rate. This is desperation. It truly is desperation. We have never ever in the history of mankind been in such dire straits, but nobody seems to realise. Everybody that I'm talking to is saying, oh, we're in recovery, and they feel more optimistic, but they don't seem to understand the fundamentals, and the fundamentals are truly awful. Now, I don't want to sound like a doom and gloom person. I'm not. I just want to see what reality is. I would be more than happy for politicians to say to us, look, we're going to go through a period of pain, we're going to try and balance the budget and even attempt to go towards a surplus and pay off the debt. But nobody in our government are prepared to do this, not even the Conservatives. Yes, they're applying some sort of cut, but it's not enough to prevent a deficit year on year. We'll truly have austerity when we try and balance the books, but it's got to happen sometime. So all they are doing is delaying the problem. Nobody wants to face it. They know if they want to get elected, they cannot tell us the truth. Because, to be honest, there's a fickle public out there and they don't want to hear the truth. They want to have something to hope for. This is the latest. This was taken about half an hour ago on the 15th of September, and you can see the US national debt stands at about $17.7 trillion. Well, people don't understand the number, so you try and tell a member of the public and they'll just glaze over. But let me give you something to think about before I finish this presentation. Now, the nearest star, excluding the Sun, is 4.3 light years away. The distance to the nearest star, excluding the Sun, is 25 trillion miles. Now, it takes light 4.3 years to reach the nearest star, travelling at 186,000 miles per second. In other words, every 6 seconds or so, it travels 1 million miles. Just thought I would give you some perspective. I just thought that this fairy tale existence is based on unsustainable debt, and that's the reality. Thank you for listening to the presentation. I'll send out another one shortly.